Hello, my friends. Welcome to another Thursday for my weekly live videos. If this is your first time watching one of these, this is a time that I put aside to kind of come together to connect and I don't know, get to play with some interesting topics such as exploring astrology, star seeds, galactic astrology, human design, intuitive guidance, sharing where we all are on this insane journey right now that we are all kind of navigating and moving through. So if this is your first time, I like to encourage you to connect. Don't be afraid to leave a comment, say hello, ask a question. And whether you are live or watching the replay, if you do want to connect or have a question, all I ask is that you share with me your first name or a nickname just so I can connect and exchange communication with you and to let me know your question. And I invite all sorts of these topics: spirit guides, intuition. All of that are things that fascinate me. So feel free to connect and join. Now, if you are not able to join the lives, I always encourage also you could leave a comment and leave me a question and I'll come back and check it or share my answer to the next week. So for this week, starting off, I only had one question that came to me. So I'm going to start there and then we'll, hi, Margot. Thanks for tuning in. Glad to see you. Hope you're doing well. Leave me a comment. Let me know how you're doing. And if you have a question or what's kind of coming up for you right now in your life. So I only have one question that came in before. So I figured I'll address that. And my video keeps freezing. So we've had thunderstorms here in Florida. So I'm hoping that the technology spirits will be in favor of this time we're spending together. Okay, so the one question was coming from Patricia, and she was asking specifically about the galactic center. Now, this is something I'm not going to spend too much time on, but I am going to share, I think, the essence of some of the things I've discussed in another live. So Patricia, I'll work on getting you the link to that video as well, so you can look into that. Now, I think this is a great opportunity to express that I love astrology. And it's so neat that this is such a dense modality with so many layers. You've got astrology and different, people. Some prefer whole signs, some prefer Placidus, some, prefer Vedic, some study one aspect, some don't look at one aspect. There's looking at your progressed moon, which is something I find fascinating. There's so many topics, and each astrologer kind of, I think, gravitates to their sweet spots. I would have to say, I know that there are very talented individuals that have done deep studies on these galactic points, and Julia Velaz, who is the founder of Galactic Astrology, is one of those. So I can send you some of her content. I'm not going to get really deep. For me personally, this isn't a subject that I am thoroughly fascinated or have as much rich information to as what you might get from per se watching one of her videos. But this is what I can share, Patricia, about the galactic center. In your galactic astrology chart, there's certain points, galactic points, which I discussed in another video, that have a lot to do with marking different galactic placements. Most of these are like black holes, or attracting things in. There also are some that put energy out. There's all sorts of different, like the Shapley attractor, the great attractor, the galactic center, the super galactic center. All of these are just notating sort of these points. Where I feel it's relevant and kind of the extent of what I share is knowing that in my work with clients, these usually point to two very obvious things. One is if you have an excessive amount of them, it can notate a very old soul that has done a lot of various travel between different galaxies, because these are said to be portals. When you look at nebulas, like the Orion Nebula, there's the Andromedan Vertex. There's also the Antares is also said to be a portal. I think Polaris is said to have portals, but these are various placements that have portal-like energy, which basically means that energies that come and go. Now, when we are looking especially in topics like our early galactic history with the Orion Nebula, this is where you have kind of like that early consciousness journey where it's like, this is a portal where energy can come in and out. So there were different galactic races, beings that wanted to have power or control over these portals. And so there was like the Orion Wars, the Draconian Wars, things like that. But generally speaking, like I said, when it comes to a client's chart, often if you have a lot of these placements, it can notate that you're an old soul that has had various galactic experiences, which then in that case, it would be no surprise you're drawn to topics like this that explore topics of galactic astrology. I know my partner has a lot of galactic placements. I have a lot of galactic placements. Like I know for him, he, even as a kid, like his mom says, even when he was like 2 years old, like every time Star Trek came on, he was like mesmerized by it. Again, it's that fascination with galactic travel of some sort. Andromedans and Lyrans often have energies where they traveled a lot as well. The second thing is usually, I describe this as an open phone line. So a lot of times people that have this, if they have a lot of galactic placements specifically, I would say these are probably people that have access to a lot of information at once. So it could feel like, you might connect with different energies. You might connect with various beings. Again, using my partner as an example, he is very connected to Regulus, but yet he's never had an actual life on Regulus, but he is connected to various different galactic races through connection and engagement, even though he didn't incarnate there. So having a lot of galactic placements can suggest gifts in channeling, which I can relate to that for myself. Being able to channel multiple different beings, being able to connect with multiple different energies, because it's, once again, like I said, kind of like it can serve as an open phone line to where you kind of have a really close connection to be able to dial into different galactic frequencies, signals, races, things along that lines. Or you can look at this as also magnetic. They can tend to be magnetic individuals. or individuals that carry an energy that maybe draw people in, that are fascinated by or curious about what you have to say, or that you carry an energy signature with you that's kind of like, ooh, this is different and I can't quite put my finger on it. But also, I would say if you don't have a lot of placements, which even that is, I'd have to see the whole chart to decipher the weight of what that looks like, because it also depends on where the different placements are. I know you mentioned it connect. I believe conjunct your ascendant, I think. So then I would say in the how you're showing up, the work you do, that there is this layer that contributes part of to either how you like show up in the world, how you're perceived in the world, or how others connect or read your energy, your signature. It can play a role in that way. So it just depends. If you don't have a lot, but for example, maybe you have a conjunction to the galactic center on, let's say, your Mercury. That could suggest maybe you're someone that is very dialed in how you may even channel through writing or speaking specifically. Even though you might not have a lot of placements, but if it's connected to Mercury, that again can, tune into that. If it's conjunct your sun, that also would have a significance. So whether or not you had a lot or not, they could note that. So there is a lot more information that can go into that. Like I said, I'll get the link to the last live where I talked about galactic placements, and then I can find the link for you for Julia, who's more astrologically like dialed into these specific degrees and how they all interplay, and more information. That is one of her, I would say, definitely a specialty of hers. So I can get that information for you. Okay. As a talk on the galactic system. Okay. Okay. Awesome. I think it's Summit. Okay. Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. I would definitely say there are some practitioners that are certified in galactic astrology they are very, very versed and feel drawn to that specifically. And there's wonderful information that goes there. I think what I've had to learn for myself, and I think this applies to anybody watching who has a fascination with astrology, I think that it's good to give ourselves grace, because we have to understand that there is so much information out there, and there can be sometimes, maybe not always, but I'm speaking to my journey. There can be this sense of also feeling or urgency to like, I have to understand all of it. And I feel like on our time on this planet, there's more information out there than what we are necessarily meant to completely fully digest. And if we all just tackled and digested every little nook and cranny, that it would be a lot of sameness. Where I'll be honest, one of my passions is I'm certified in human design, and I'm certified as a Gene Keys guide. And I don't entirely, I can do the readings and go down all the, say all the lingo and go down the rabbit holes and interpret the charts, and I can do it all. But what fascinates, the piece I love, is the gates, and I love to weave those in to astrology for a unique perspective. So I tend to love the asteroids, and I love looking at the fixed stars. I love the gates. I love seeing how that weaves into the soul's past lives. I especially love that. when you can look at astrology chart and see how patterns come together to show past lives. But my passion is very much in uncovering the soul and the soul's journey and the experience you're having in this life. So I would say in astrology, those I really tend to go and dive deeper into. So yeah. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yes. It's interesting and it's fun too, because sometimes my guides will use some of the language to help get my attention, to help guide me to different ways to unlock things, which I wanted to share this story with you. There's a couple things that I have on my mind, but I want to share this story. I briefly talked a little bit about it last week, and only in my community post I shared it. And I'm feeling like inclined to kind of talk about this a little bit in kind of like where I feel like a lot of us are kind of being invited to kind of learn and embrace and live a little differently, maybe you could say. Because what I'm noticing is I'm recognizing that there are a lot of signs and things that are coming up in my day-to-day reality and experience, but they all have kind of required me to kind of take a step or to take a leap, like a leap, or to trust. And one of those things that is fascinating is the other day, so I was connecting to my partner, Beckett. We've been going through a journey. I'll be honest, it's been a year ongoing of different layers for each of us. And for reference, it's not light things. And, I can only speak for myself specifically, but when I say it's not light things, I mean, it's talking about being tested in faith in areas that relate to safety of your home, the roof over your head, the way your finances, the way money flows in and out to you, transportation for me, having experiences with that, feeling like I've navigated feelings of I know what I want to experience and holding it too tightly and squeezing the life out of it. And I've had experiences where I've, said, I know what I want, so I'm just going to fix it. I'm going to do everything I can to, make it make sense. Like all of the logical steps in the human world that you would take, ideas of if I have this position, if I make this certain amount, if I behave in this way, if I say these things, like all of these things where these topics of what it is to be human and what we assume is right or wrong to be able to have the experiences and live the life that we want to have. And we've been brought to this situation to where there's literally no logical explanation. And I have had to, and Beckett has had to completely surrender to there is nothing but trust. And I use the analogy in the post I share of Moses up against the sea, kind of like, what now? This energy. And I shared this story where in this energy, we were kind of being intuitive. We do connect spiritually, and I do channel. So, I connected to his Akashic records, and my guides are very direct. I like instructions. I like steps. I like here is what I need to follow. Hence why the last year of my life, I've been going through all of these logical steps that seem like this will get me there. This will get me there. This is, and bumping up against resistance, bumping up against resistance. Until finally I surrendered and said, okay, universe, it's your turn. I can't fix this. I've done everything. I've followed every suggestion. I can't fix this. So in a moment, we were in the evening, I connected to his Akashic records. And while my guides do tend to be direct, his are very abstract. And he laughs at me because 9 times out of 10, when I connect to his Akashic records, I'm like, I don't know, there's this thing, and this thing. So I connected to his records and they were showing me like this checkerboard that was black and white. And it was very specific to be at an angle. And then there was this tree coming out of it. And then the tree started, like the whole board started to flip and it was white underneath. And there was this heart with like these vines coming out of it. And then they showed me an apple just randomly out of nowhere. And then they were taking me to this library and there was this marble and everything was black and white. And then there was this guy, Dante, and they gave me all the visuals of what he looked like. And I was like, who's Dante? Like, I don't know. Does this mean anything to you? And there was all these symbolisms and they gave me this word. They said conjuncto. I'm like, what? Okay. So I had to trust every step of this process, to relay this information. And as a channeler, it's like I have had to learn to let go. It's not my responsibility to always say what these visions are. Like in his guides, no, he likes quests, he likes puzzles, he likes discovery. And the thing is in that process, there's more information that is like energetically being imprinted in that experience that goes beyond just a simple, definition of your guide said to go do this. So the next morning he woke up and he had all of these weird symbolisms and, and looked it up and he had this visual journey where he saw one of the books in this library and he touched it and he wrote all these symbols and he's like, I don't know what they are. And they were runes. And basically this whole experience, Dante ended up connecting to something about Dante's Inferno. I don't know all the ins and outs of it. He could tell you all fascinating things about it. It's not necessarily my journey, but it led to this rabbit hole. So days forward, and he's recognizing how alchemy keeps coming up. And he got this book on alchemy. And so this morning we woke up and it's a pivotal day for us, to where we're faced with some very serious decisions. And serious decisions in the sense of where it feels like most people that you would try to tell it to would not understand and would not be able to even assist in offering suggestions or advice, because it's our journey and what we've been going through. And so he shows me this book and he's like, I bought this book on alchemy. I keep feeling drawn to it, and it's connected to Carl Jung. And he's talking and my guides are saying, open the book. And I'm like, where is this coming from? And I tend to be logical. And so I kind of skirted it off at first. And then later in the conversation, it comes up again. And he says, my guides are saying, open the book. So finally I listened to my intuition and I said, okay, I feel like I'm meant to open this book, and I have absolutely no understanding why. I don't even know if I'm going to understand what's in this book, but I'm gonna follow it because who knows. So I hold this book, and I never even looked inside, and I'm just kind of like feeling through the pages on the outside, and I asked my guides. I said, "Can you help us in our situation? Is there any guidance that you would have?" And I flipped through and I opened the book. And when I did, I didn't know what I was looking at. There was no, title, but I handed the book to Beckett and he looked at this picture and he said, "Oh my God, you're not going to believe this." And I said, "What?" He says, "You open the book to conjuncto." And the point is he read about it, and the idea of conjuncto in alchemy is basically when you get to a point, and use this loosely. This is loosely, but I know he could speak more to it, but the idea basically is it's this ideal of where you can come to a spot in your journey in which you can not look so much to the external definition and move through the storms regardless. And it was funny too, because even the book talks about storms, and it was storming and the light was flickering and it was, lightning and thunder and the windows are rattling and it's like something straight out of a book. And here I am looking at this, and he was like, "Oh my gosh," like this was like a series of actually three different dots, especially for him, that led to this moment. And essentially what it was saying is it doesn't have to make sense to everybody else, and the logical mind will try to fight with you, but there comes to a point where you are so surrendered that you see beyond, and you're not tossed around through external circumstances. It's coming together. And there's a lot more to it, and it talked a little bit about a lion and fire and emotion. And the point is it's like I looked at him and I said, "Okay, again, here we are living in a magical reality." And while it might seem insane, the circumstances we're going through, there are signs everywhere that are helping to say to us, you're on the right path. You're not alone. You're being watched. And I think part of why I'm sharing this with you now is there's a lot of conversation. There's people talking about the basket, and I haven't dug much into that. I've shared that, and this is opening and that is opening, or this portal or this situation. And I know, I mean, I can't even process, even collectively, at least here in the United States, what some of the things that are taking place. But this is what I can say is the whole idea of this story is that there comes to a point where we can know the things, we can study it, we can talk about it, I can share it, but we have to embody it. And embodying it means sometimes you have to have faith beyond logical reason. It makes you feel a little delusional sometimes. But I sit with myself and I say, okay, what do I want to do with this time that I have? And when I ask myself, what do I want to do with this time I have? I want to experience, as I said, a magical life. And I realize I am living a magical life. But also, what does that look like? To be in connection to our intuition, to move beyond, linear concepts and things that define and judge and contain us. One last thing on this. We've been watching a documentary on Disney, and regardless of what your opinions are about the company or not, put those aside. I'm talking about the very beginning. I'm talking about a man that literally sat on a park bench watching his kids play, and the inspiration for Disney came from a feeling that's like, I kind of want to play too. How innocent and childlike is that? And I think we lose sight of that essence within ourselves. But this man had a spark that came from wanting to participate, wanting to be with his children and have this experience. And every step of the way, he was said, no, you can't do this. There was a time when he was looking to buy a large amount of land, and his brother was like, We can't do this, Walt. There is no way, like, you have lost your marbles. And he said, we'll take it and it'll work out. And he moved constantly by faith. And when they talk about the people that helped build this park, they weren't experts. They didn't know necessarily how to do these things. It was trial and error. It was a dream. It was risk. It was trying. It was imagining. It was playing. And because of this, then we have what we have now today, whether you like it or not. The point is many of us live now in feeling like, I hear time and time again from my clients, I have this new gift, but I'm scared to use it. People aren't ready for it, or they won't understand it, or I need to find a certification for it. It's like we want this logical plan of steps. This is how we're going to make it happen. This is how we're going to get there. Then we think it's okay to jump because we think an illusion that we haven't figured out and we're going to know how to get there. I know that feeling. I've been fighting it for the last year of my life. And what I'm trying to say to you is, if you get nothing else out of this, this is what is changing. This is what it means to come more into our authentic expression and our fullness. It is dropping the fears. It is taking the risk on the intuition, not the risk of like, you can be spontaneous in anger and make a sudden decision just because out of spite. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about when in your gut where you're being guided, and the guidance keeps showing up and showing up and showing up to the point where you have to blatantly choose to say, no, thank you, universe. I don't want to experience that side of myself. I don't want to know what it's like to channel. I don't want to be like Disney. I don't want to be the one that steps out when you can't explain how that happens. I mean, even to the last minutes before they opened the park, nothing was going. Everything was trial and error and living, experiencing, dreaming. And living that way and choosing to open more up to possibility instead of fear, as difficult as it is, sharing it, even now, I share it because somebody out there is going through something beyond logic, and they're probably quietly sitting there thinking, I can't tell anybody about this. Like, I'm following this guidance and I'm trusting, but people are going to think I'm crazy. And I think that we're being invited to start opening up to the possibility of life looking very different than what we've known it. And that's scary. But it doesn't have to be. Can we find joy in the moment? And when I look at the asteroids and I look at the astrology, and when I look at what's going on, and everybody's talking about this basket, and I'm like, okay, basket. All right. I haven't felt called to it. Doesn't mean it's not a thing. I get the intensity of these planets coming together, but I looked to the I Ching and I said, okay, but what is it saying? And when we look at some of these aspects, it helps to form a story. Like right now, the south and the north nodes have shifted, and they're in the north nodes in gate 30, the south nodes in 29. What is this? Where are you committing your energy? Like, what is getting your energy? Is it fueled from desire, or is it fueled from fear? Are you drudging through the tasks because this makes me feel more responsible? This makes me look more logical. This is what I'm supposed to do. This is what I committed to do, and I can't turn my back from that. But is it quietly draining you? Are you feeling your fullness? Do you feel your heart in where you are committing and putting your energy? It's asking us to reconsider how we're showing up. Are we showing up feeling like we're doing it regardless of whether it's accepted or not? But it's our desire, so we're going to do it. That's Aquarius. Okay, you might not get it. That's cool, but I'm going to do me. If you want to join, put on a crazy cat suit and let's go. You know, it wants to go anyways. But yet we can look at it the flip, and it can say part of the 29 is the abysmal in the I Ching. It's not knowing. It's the deep hole. It's the unknown. It's like, but are you going to take those steps? Are you going to commit anyways, even when you don't have a guarantee? Aquarius Gate 30, desire, says, I want to do the things. Okay, that's good. But will you do them whether or not people accept them? Will you do them whether or not people understand them? Will you move from your heart regardless? Commit to the things that actually are filling your soul, regardless of whether you know it will or won't turn out. There's energy there. We look at Jupiter and the sun right now. They're in Gate 31. This is, we want to have a say. We want to inspire in some way or influence, but it's a unique leadership that doesn't come from dictating. It doesn't come from, this is the way you need to follow this. It's like, sit with me, talk to me. What is it you're going through? Okay, I hear you. You want to do that unusual thing. All right, I can help get there. I can help you see that. But you have to choose to take the steps yourself. It's the leader that's not going to tell you what to do or force you to do it. It's going to suggest it. It's going to help you see it, but it's going to let the other person decide. So it's looking at our lives and saying also, you want the recognition, you want, the connections, but are you showing up in that power, or are you holding your tongue? Are you, saying someone else is more qualified? Or are you taking the risk? Are you showing up fully as who you are regardless? Another interesting energy with this is Uranus. Uranus is watching everything and saying, y'all have a lot of things you're visiting and entertaining and exploring. But really, all I care about is, are you being present? And I wouldn't be surprised, as spicy as Uranus is, that if you ain't, that things are going to constantly be coming up in your reality to shake you up. Plans that don't go as you expected, things that kind of course correct you. You wake up with your to-do list and thinking this is what I should be doing, and then your computer dies or the electric goes out. It's like, well, there goes my plans. And Uranus is like, can you just be present? Can you just acknowledge the feelings that are coming to your intention instead of distracting yourself from them? Instead of trying to busy through the discomfort of not knowing? All of these energies right now are at play, and they're really inviting us to kind of look at these topics. It's interesting. And I think the thing that I personally desire the most is, I would love for us to reach a point where we can put aside our personal judgment and start showing up in honesty to where we are. What's exciting right now? Share it. because that's going to inspire a lot of other people who are going through a hard time. But if you don't share it, it's not experienced. That's the 31 energy. To share some of the challenges, not, well, just from where you are. You know, I think that if we all just spent less time trying to solve others' problems or trying to fix the world or trying to communicate to prove ourselves or try to relay that we are the victim. But if we just like very vulnerably just said, this is where I am, I think we'd be surprised how many people are right there too, equally as afraid to talk about it. And I think the more we shift as a society, the more we're invited to kind of like evolve. I know one of the most common things when I channel, doesn't matter what being it is, angels, Palladians, the message over and over and over is connection, connection, connection. And that requires, I think, a new level of vulnerability than what is comfortable for a lot of us. So that's also why I am determined to be consistent. Today, when I woke up, I was like, how am I going to get through this day? And I wanted to cancel everything. And I'm like, nope, I'm going to show up anyways. I'm going to live my day because you can't fixate on the things you can't control. And so I want to come here, whether I'm happy, sad, no matter where I am, because to me, that is encouraging me to show up regardless and hoping that others feel that they can show up regardless as well. So, yeah. Yeah. Yes. Oh, yes. I have, I've shared my soul origins is blueprinter. And part of the blueprinter's role is learning to balance the head and heart. And boy, have I had to go through that. So thank you, Margot. All right. Well, if we don't have any questions, I'm probably going to leave it at this. I think that hopefully anybody that's watched or heard this, if you are going through difficulty, no matter how crazy it seems, you're not alone. And I hope that this encourages you that it's not all for nothing, and to look at the signs that are around you, look at the things that are showing support. And maybe even you can say, if you're finding this video, this is the universe showing support to say you're not alone. So, okay, well, thank you so much for watching. And also, I just want to mention, I know I talked a little bit about astrology and my passion for the areas I'm interested in, and I have decided to launch an astrology course, which I'm so excited about, because we are going to look at fixed stars, we're going to look at asteroids, we're going to look at the I Ching, and I'm going to help walk you through my unique method of reading astrology and how it can reveal patterns and past lives and help you understand on such a rich level, like the kind that's like ahas and breakthrough of what your soul's journey has been and where you are and your gifts that you have, and that you can leave feeling confident in not only being able to look at your own chart, but also to explore others as well. So if this calls to you, and that sounds like you feel drawn to it, please check out the description, and I'll leave a link as well in the comments, that you can peek and look at that. And if you're watching the replay, please, I invite you to connect, share where you are, and leave a question for next week. Ask me anything about these topics. I'd love to chat more. So, okay, guys, thanks for watching, and I hope you have a beautiful week. Bye.